Hello friends, in this lecture we shall discuss some basic concepts of information security, cyber security and the objective and context for securing information system. Let us begin with a very basic question. What exactly the term security implies? The term security has many interpretations. In a subjective sense, security measures the absence of fear that one might have in mind in order to achieve some target goal from the system he or she is dealing with. Note that the fear factor is always there in any system of physical or cyber world. Less fear implies the situation is better, secure, and more fear means the situation may not be in good shape or suffers from uncertainty. For example, when a person is driving a car, he or she has some sort of fear in mind whether the road will have less traffic, can he reach the destination safely, and so on. The fear factor is going to be there in driver's mind as long as he or she is on the job of driving. Similarly, assume that a doctor is performing some surgery on a patient. In that case, the doctor will have some fear in mind whether the operation is going to be successful, how is the risk factor involved in that task, etc. Now, it is important to note that the fear factor or impact of the absence of fear varies from system to system. In the above example, impact of car accident could be high in comparison to handling more traffic situation, and unsuccessful surgery is a huge impact on patient as well as patient's family members. Therefore, more we reduce fear, anxiety while handling a system, the system can become more secure. That is, the intended security objective can be achieved without much disturbance. In an objective sense, security measures absence of threats. Again, a system can have different kinds of threats. Some threats can be avoidable and some threats can exist in the system while availing the services of the system. Now, what does this mean? Let us consider the example of car driving. The driver, while driving the car, is relying on the car's engine, assuming that the road or weather conditions are going to be better. Now, if the engine starts malfunctioning because of some problem, then this threat can create a potential damage to the driver, passengers, passerby, etc. If the car is serviced or checked as per norms and the driver follows the road language, then the chances of engine failure may be less. However, there could be some other threats that come into the context, such as other vehicles driver could make a catastrophic error which can put both cars into an accident. A very popular news item that we hear is investments in mutual funds are subject to market risk. Please read all the offered documents carefully before investing. Now, here the threat message is, if tomorrow the economic situation of the global markets gets down, then the invested amount in mutual fund may get reduced based on the market conditions. So, investors cannot complain about the loss of money if that arises from the market situation. As a result, like fear in mind, threats could exist in any system. Knowing the fact of existence of threats, if we are willing to avail the service of the system, then it is our assumption that there is less chance of facing bad things from the existence of threats. So, the goal is to reduce the threats such that bad things will not happen or may happen with negligible chance. Security is a system property which must rely on technology, primitive, policy, and how well all these are being managed towards the objective of the security of a system. In other words, security of a system implies making sure that bad things do not happen or reducing the chances that bad things will happen, lowering the impact of bad things and ways to recover from bad things if that happens, and finally, security of a system is not free. That is, one should manage the cost of the system in order to achieve its security. Now, let us come to some specific context of security, that is, information security. So, what is it? Information is basically an asset. So, it needs protection against malicious intention. Information security is the protection of information asset against unauthorized access, disclosure, modification or deletion, whether accidental or intentional. Okay, moving forward, let us understand what is cyber security. Cyber security is equal to information security plus cyberspace plus technology plus policy. In simple terms, cyber security is the protection of assets in cyberspace pertaining to information and communication system against unauthorized access, disclosure, modification or destruction. Cyber security means security of cyberspace, where cyberspace is basically information and communication system. In other words, security of cyberspace with the goal of protecting operations and assets of information and communication system from attacks, accidents and or failures. Does that make complete sense? Probably no. Unless we bring the proper context into the picture, it is not clear which operations need protection and what kind of assets require security, isn't it? Let us take an example to make it clear. Assume that a banking system is functional in online platform. That is, customers can perform banking transaction from anywhere and anytime. Important operations pertaining to this banking application are debit or credit transaction, account status update, periodical backup, currency exchange, loan processing and so on. And the assets are customers, processes, hardware, software, servers, data, employees, policy, infrastructure, etc. Now, in order to protect the operations and assets from bad people, for example, attackers and hackers, the authority of banking system can employ various layers of protection, having enough confidence that the system can function with least possible threats. Therefore, cyber security implies securing information communication system from attacks, accidents and failures with the goal of protecting operations and assets. Operations or assets of what? Individual assets, organization assets, national assets, and what type of operations? Once these parameters are known, then one could use appropriate technology, policy and procedure to protect assets in using information and communication technology in cyberspace. In addition, cybersecurity also brings other important components such as crimes and cyber laws. So, one should be familiar with possible consequences if any violation, for example, attacks of information and communication system assets in the web of world. Note that security of a system is not only the technical stuff, instead, how well you manage the security of the system with effective risk management policy is more important than technology. For example, putting a high-end firewall may not protect the enterprise application unless the system administrator configures and manages the firewall appropriately and regularly against new and potential threats. Therefore, security is equal to technology plus policy plus risk management with respect to the target objective. All these can collectively assure security of information and network assets for the intended goal of the system. It is important to note that cryptographic art cannot make information system, communication system, cyberspace secure unless clear goal and assumptions of the system is drawn, adversarial model considered for the system is reasonable, primitives have been selected and implemented properly, standard and best practices are adopted, security audit and risk management of the system is addressed. Note that use of public channel like internet opens up multiple doors to attackers. So, effective measure of attackers' capability before and after system deployment could reduce the chance of bad things happening. Moving on to the second part of the lecture, we shall try to understand about the security of information and communication systems with respect to different applications. Information system security, also known as InfoSec, refers to the processes and methodologies that ensure confidentiality, integrity and availability of information. InfoSec also refers to some other security properties like access control of resources, authentication of participating entities and risk management, which helps in detecting and mitigating security breaches and also guides to recover from attacks, damages and failures. InfoSec implies information security plus communication security plus risk management, and computer security primarily deals with computer related assets which must be protected from known vulnerabilities as well as from potential threats. You must understand the difference between vulnerability and threat. Now, vulnerability is a weakness of a system that can be exploited by a threat, and threat is a potential cause of an unwanted incident which may result in harm to a system, to an individual or to an organization. The important difference between these two terms must be used for measuring the security of a system. Communication security implies many things: channel security, protocol security and layered protection and so on. In the context of computer and communication security, one could understand it as protection of computer and communication related assets from attackers. For this, various measures need to be taken to protect assets against attackers. Therefore, focus should be given on what assets do we need to protect, how are those assets threatened, what can we do to counter those threats. Now, traditionally, the triad CIA, that is confidentiality, integrity and availability, is most commonly used for measuring the security of a system. It is the protection afforded to an information system in order to preserve confidentiality, integrity and availability of information from system resources. Confidentiality means protection against unauthorized access to system resources. Integrity means keeping information intact or unaltered. And availability is one of the most important business goals of any system, which ensures that its service and access is provided to users as and when demanded. It is noted that the requirement of these security properties such as confidentiality, integrity, availability, etc., and authentication varies from application to application. That is, not all applications require all these properties. An application may need only authentication and integrity. An application may require only confidentiality, while an application may demand all of these properties. So, the need of infocom security is a crucial point that one should understand clearly before claiming security of a system. Let us take a few scenarios to understand better where we need confidentiality, where we need integrity and where we need availability. If we look at military application perspectives, then the aim of confidentiality could be that the target coordinates of a missile should not be improperly disclosed. That means, where the missile is going to hit, the coordinates of the target destination must be protected from unauthorized people. The target coordinates of the missile is confidential and accessible only by the authorized person, for example, the army chief. The objective of integrity in this context refers to the goal that target coordinate of a missile should not be improperly modified. For example, the army chief believes that if missile is fired, then the missile is going to hit the target coordinates and no one will be able to modify the target coordinates in the air. If anyone is able to alter the target coordinates of the missile, that is, the trajectory of the missile's path, then the missile will hit somewhere else than the intended destination. Now, let us come to the availability property. Availability objective in this context is when the proper command is issued, the missile should fire. If command is triggered, but the missile does not fire, then the objective of having a missile for protecting the country or border is not going to help at all. You press the button, but missile does not fire, and by that time enemies arrive at your territory. If we consider an enterprise application, then you can see how one can perceive such properties which are slightly different than the previous scenario. In the context of payroll application, the HR thinks that confidentiality ensures that an employee should not come to know the salary of his or her boss. Integrity intends that an employee cannot modify his own salary, that is, the amount of salary credited for an employee is going to follow as per the instruction provided by HR officer, and nobody can alter anything about that instruction. Availability in this context ensures that employee's salary should get credited on time as per the policy of the organization. Therefore, it is important to note that the requirement of security properties in application can have different perspectives. The security perspective can be technological, societal, business, functional and economic, or an appropriate combination of all these. As you can see, application developer is considering some security properties to protect application from attackers. At the same time, attackers are trying to identify some weaknesses in the application or system which they can exploit to attack the application that may cause harm on the system.